What is up, Cowboys Nation? Welcome to the PFN Dallas Cowboys podcast. I'm Jess Navarez here with Dalton Miller. Dalton, it seems like forever ago since we last talked, although it's only been a week. It seems like it's been a long time. And,
Do you think that's because the Cowboys played on Thursday and not on Sunday? Do you think that
yeah,
affects the way that we think about these things?
yes, because I don't know what day it is anymore. I was just about to
Fair.
say, going Sunday, Thursday, I have no idea what day it is. I have no idea what time it is. Who am I? Like, I don't know what is going on this week. I just know the Cowboys play the Seahawks on Thursday, and that's all I have to know. So yeah, how was your Thanksgiving? First of all, happy belated Thanksgiving, but I hope you and your wife got to spend it together and had some good food ready for you guys.
We did. We didn't go out. We were thinking about going out for dinner, but I had to work the early game, which is actually the dinner time game for us. So we made our own Thanksgiving dinner. It was nice, and we got to make most of it beforehand. So I got to actually take part in the cooking. We like to do that together. It's our it's a good way for us to spend time with one another in our busy lives. But yeah, it was nice. How was your Thanksgiving? Did you? Were you at the game?
I was not at the game. I was not at the game, sadly. So I did miss Dolly Parton live, which I was so excited to possibly be able to see, but was not at the game. Spent it with my boyfriend and his family, who had to see me go absolutely ballistic when DaRon Bland had his pick
Fair.
six. So, so sorry to them for going absolutely feral. But
I bet
we're
a
all
lot of
Cowboys
people
fans, so
that
it's fine.
yeah, I bet a lot of people that aren't hardcore Cowboys fans were all looking at their family members like, what are you doing
Why are
right
you
now?
going
They're
so
already
crazy? They're already winning.
destroying them. What is the big deal? It's like, oh no, he just set an NFL
Yeah.
record.
Yeah, no, I was going absolutely feral, and as I should. And so the first thing, I said, I was like, anything but Bland. And they were just like, okay, yeah, just let her do her thing.
Hmm.
So it was fun, good food, good time, good company, all the good things. Dalton, so as you know, the Dallas Cowboys beat the Washington Commanders. Happy Thanksgiving to all the Cowboys fans out there. But we'll go over some of the game highlights. We'll go over some, I think, important key notes of that game to make mention of. And we're going to give you a little preview of Cowboys versus Seattle for this week. So that's kind of what we have slotted for today's episode. But this would not be the PFN Dallas Cowboys podcast without Dalton Miller giving us his hot or not take. So, Dalton, my friend, what is your hot or not for the week?
The NFL cannot screw this up. If DaRon Bland continues to play at the level that he is currently playing at, on top of, maybe he gets another pick six before the end of the season, he has to be the defensive player of the year. He has to be. Stephon Gilmore won one a couple of years ago, and it was because he was a lockdown corner, but we're looking at lockdown corner type numbers from DaRon Bland on top of setting NFL records for pick sixes. And yes, some of the pick sixes are, gifts. But that pick six that he had against Carolina was not a gift. All right, he went out, he dove for the ball, he returned it. I mean, great job by Jonathan Mingo to not touch him down. But I think when you have more receiving touchdowns or the same amount of receiving touchdowns as Travis Kelce and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and Dalton Schultz, who is now, a Houston Texan, Calvin Ridley, Devontae Smith. He has the same amount of receiving touchdowns as them. There's only 16 wide receivers or tight ends that have more than 5, and he only has, been targeted 50 times. So it's a high rate of being able to score. And there might be some times next season where they have to figure out a way to get him the ball on offense to see if he has that type of creativity on the other side of the ball.
Oh, wow.
I know Trayvon Diggs wants to play a little wide receiver. I know that for a fact. There's no way that Micah doesn't want to play a little bit of running back. So maybe I'm not saying that it has to be a real thing, but give me a gimmick every once in a while and just let one of those guys touch the ball a couple times next year.
Well, also remember, Micah was playing some tight end earlier in the year, and that was an entire conversation. Mike was letting him play some tight end reps during practice,
He's too short for that. He's too
which
short.
is
He needs to play more than that.
hilarious. Like it was, anyways. No, I think when it comes to DaRon Bland, you already know what I think about DaRon Bland. You
Yeah.
already know.
Anything Buckland. Is
We
anything
already know
Buckland.
that. We don't have to say it anymore. I feel like people are getting sick of hearing me say it, but it's so true. And you're talking about a guy that, um, uh, it's so interesting when you talk to him in the locker room because he's so humble. You hear that nonstop from Jerry, from Mike, from Dak, from his teammates, and he is because when we talked to him in the locker room, we're like, "So what did your family say? What did everyone say?" And he's like, "They were excited." Like he's just so he's so sweet and I'm so happy for him, but inevitably, I mean, how many more and maybe I'm putting you on the spot by asking this, but how many more pick sixes do you think he can get looking at the slated schedule ahead? How many more do you think he's getting by the end of the season? The
Well,
regular
yeah.
season.
I mean, you got to look at it. You're starting to play some better quarterbacks here. So, Geno Smith, I know that Geno's not playing very well right now. We'll get into that later. But tough to see him really getting one against Geno Smith or Jalen Hurts or, the anticipatory nature of Tua Tagovailoa could help him out a little bit there because you can kind of get guys into trouble when they have to throw as early as he does. Jared Goff all of the sudden has turned into a turnover machine again, which is hilarious and not good for the Detroit Lions because that's like the one thing that they cannot have offensively. And then you finish off of the season with Sam Howell once again, and we already know that he can do it against Sam Howell. So I think there's going to be some opportunities with Josh Allen. It's a little bit tough because Josh Allen is, turnover prone here and there, but a lot of his turnovers are down the field. Those are a little bit tougher. He's not really jumping routes or doesn't give the opportunity to like jump routes very often and get pick sixes in that way. So I think that he might be able to get one more, but it's really hard to return an interception for a touchdown. And I mean, it shows that 5 is the most ever in an NFL season. And so you can't, I don't think, really count on him having any more.
That's fair. That's fair. I want to believe, the Delulu version of me is like
Yeah,
one for
let's get him to
every
7 or 8.
game, like one for every game at least. But I think realistically, this was the stretch of the schedule that it was more likely you were going to see them happen more
Yeah.
often. And I think that's why it's important to note kind of how the schedule is going to change for the Cowboys overall and how games are going to start to look a little bit different compared to what you've seen the last 3 weeks. And, the last 3 weeks have been, hey, they should win this game. They're favored to win this game by a lot. Double digit favors for the last 3 weeks. That's a lot. And it's very untypical that you see a stretch of football like that in the NFL. Cowboys came out victorious. However, things are going to start to shift a little bit as the last trimester, as Mike McCarthy likes to call it, is rolling around for the Cowboys this starting this week. And so another Thursday game, another primetime game coming up. But
Speaking of the last trimester, how did we not bring this up? Dak Prescott's going to be a father right around the same time I am.
you know what? I love that. I love that timeline for you both. And I'm not drinking whatever is in the water. I'm good. So
Fair.
it is really cool to see though. I'm not gonna lie, when I saw the news, I was really emotional because what a happy moment for him after everything he's been through in his life and
Mm-hmm.
his trials and tribulations, the highs and the lows, and now he gets this beautiful new chapter of being a girl dad. He's
And
gonna
he's
be
playing
such a
out of his
cool
freaking
dad.
mind right now, too,
You
which
know,
is always good.
we love that. So big congratulations to Sarah and Dak. Really excited for them. And hey, maybe your kids can be besties, right? Like they're gonna be around the same age. That'd be
Yeah,
cool.
they're going to be around the same age, but
That'd be
like
so
an
cool.
ocean apart.
You know what? We can figure it out. We can figure it out. Very fun stuff there. So yes, big congrats. Let's get into this Commanders matchup real quick. Let's give a little overview. 45-10 final score for the Dallas Cowboys, who continue their home win streak. Now at 13. Lucky number 13 there. And you know how well the Cowboys play at home. I mean, it's just undeniable how this team can rally to play AT&T Stadium. But yeah, let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Dak was 22 completions for 32 attempts, 331 yards, 4 touchdowns. No interceptions in this game. Receiving yards, Brandon Cooks had the most, 72 yards, 1 touchdown. CeeDee Lamb had 53 for 1 touchdown and 4 receptions, I should mention. And then Jalen Tolbert, 49 yards, 2 receptions there. And then Kevontae Turpin, of course, it was Turpentine, got his 4th touchdown of the season. Rico Dowdle also getting himself into the end zone as well. What did you notice from this Cowboys offense? I guess I should mention some rushing stats as well. Tony Pollard had 79 yards for 13 attempts. Rico had 11 yards for 3 attempts. And then Dak Prescott, 10 yards in 1 run. So overall, looking at this offense, what do you want to continue to see from them? Let's start with that. What do you want to continue to see out of what you saw from this game? What can they take going into this a little bit more tough part of their schedule they're about to play?
Yeah, I think there's something like 73% of their offensive snaps in this past game had some sort of motion or shift to it, which is big. It's what everybody has been screaming about all season up until the bye week, and I think that that's been the biggest difference in the bye week or since the bye week is that part of the offense really starting to modernize a little bit and starting to make defenses answer different questions. And defenses, especially like the Washington Commanders that already suffer a ton of communication errors in the back end, that was a recipe for disaster for them. The Cowboys obviously wanted to push the ball downfield early, often. And when you look at this overall, the Cowboys scored 45 points, and that sounds awesome in and of itself. But you have to look at it as well. They only had 9 offensive possessions the entire game.
Right.
One of theirs, the second one of the game, is the most hilarious one I've ever seen because they had 20 penalty yards. They had 90 net yards, so they started it at the 10-yard line. But their overall drive, and I don't think I've ever seen this before, was 110 yards on 11 plays. I don't think I've ever seen a drive go over 100 yards like that before. But yeah, after that first drive, it was touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Coming out in the third quarter, punt, punt, and then field goal, touchdown, touchdown. And they just, I mean, they take advantage of turnovers defensively as well. Obviously, DaRon Bland returning 1 for a touchdown. But they're just playing incredibly clean football right now. And so I don't think that you really have to worry too much about this offense going back to and kind of folding into itself again, like we've kind of seen it done in the past with Kellen Moore. We've seen some creativity here and there, but then they kind of shrivel up and play a little bit more static when they play better football teams. And I'm hoping that that's not the case now after the bye week, after Mike McCarthy kind of reshaped this offense.
And I kind of go back to the thought process that the Cowboys can give these teams coming up a lot of unscouted looks. You really haven't seen a fancy, cuter, if you will, I hate that word, version of this Cowboys offense because you haven't had to. You don't have to show your hand when you're playing the Commanders or the Panthers for that matter, right? So I kind of go back to, I still wonder what tricks Mike McCarthy has up his sleeve because I'm telling you, when we're in training camp, we're seeing all of these things happen. You're seeing all of this really cool stuff with the tight ends and then the running back group. And then you have a Hunter Lipke that's yet to be involved more. Deuce Vaughn. I mean, you have so many different special packages that you could be using that you just haven't had to yet. So I'm interested to see kind of when that comes into play. And if it does, and you kind of start to see a little bit more of it, maybe against the Seahawks, but especially when you're talking a must win, an absolute must win game for the Eagles coming up here in the next couple of weeks as well. So yeah, I like what I'm seeing from Mike McCarthy's play calling overall. I think his play calling was phenomenal in this game. And I think what you're seeing is everybody's comfortable. Everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody's comfortable where they are. And credit to Mike because how he has transformed this offense to be more of a pass heavy offense when they were very run heavy. That's not easy to do. And it's not easy to do if you don't have the quarterback that's ready to do it. And Dak has absolutely taken what he's been given with this playbook and he is running with it. I mean, literally and figuratively, of course, but he's playing lights out and all credit to Dak and just the communication night and day compared to what we saw from this offense last year. So good stuff there. What about red zone issues? Does this still concern you? Is this officially a conversation of the past for you?
I think it's a little bit in the past at this point. I think offensively, I'm just pretty comfortable with this team, and it's been a long time since I've been this comfortable. Like I wish that they could run it a little bit better most of the time, but I'm very much in the camp of pass early and pass often, anyways. And so if you can't run the ball, it kind of takes it out of your hands, and you do pass the ball early and often. And this is a team that can throw it all over the yard. And I think the best thing about Dak Prescott has always been his ability to distribute the ball around and not really focus on just, targeting one guy. He loves his tight ends. He obviously loves CeeDee Lamb, but they've done a really good job of getting Brandon Cooks involved since the bye week as well. And I'm really comfortable with what this offense looks like right now. When you look at the left side of this offensive line, it's completely dominant. You have Zach Martin at right guard, who's still outstanding. The one real sore spot in the entire offense is at right tackle, and there are things to mitigate that if you are intelligent in your protections and how you kind of help him out against unkind matchups.
I also think Terrence Steele has gotten better, though. I really have liked what I've seen from him, especially out in space. Like, if he's out in space, he actually does
Well, in the
really
run game,
well.
he's fantastic. It all for him. It all comes down to pass protection, and going up against the Commanders, it doesn't really matter all that much because they're running like Casey Toohill out
Sure.
there at edge rusher right now. But you're going to see Boye Mafe this week for the Seattle Seahawks, and you have obviously a ton of very good pass rushers coming up on the schedule. So he's going to be needing to play his best football.
And speaking of the run game, are you comfortable with where it's at right now? How much production it's getting, but also the ball distribution between Tony Pollard and Rico Dowdle. Overall, as you're going into December football, how do you feel about that aspect of this offense?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to see the hot hand. It was a really weird game because the Cowboys had the ball for like 20 minutes against the Commanders. So, like, it wasn't a game where you really got a good feel for what that is. And then when you look at, when they played the Carolina Panthers, the Panthers don't have a very good run defense anyway. So, it's tough to kind of gauge what it's looking like right now. Even with the ball distribution, because we've been in a bunch of blowouts, so you're getting different guys, carries anyways. But I do think, like, especially beating the Commanders the way that they were beating the Commanders, 13 carries to 3 isn't really what I want to see. I want to see more of an even split, 10, 7, 11, 6, something a little bit closer. I think Rico just brings an angry style to the way that he runs. And with that anger, I think is still a little bit better patience than we've seen a lot of the times from Tony Pollard, who it just feels like he is pressing a little bit this year as he's become the down in and down out guy.
And I also think too, we tend to forget, and I know it's because the offseason feels like ages ago at this point. So I say I tend to forget that this is Tony Pollard's first time stepping into this starting role. And I know that seems like such a simple thing to do with how much attention he was getting already before the season, even with Zeke involved. But it's a mindset change. And CeeDee Lamb has talked about this. He talked about it last year of how much mentally it takes to really become the one in the room. And I guess I never had thought about it until CeeDee had spoken about it. And a couple weeks ago, somebody in the scrum had asked him, what's your advice for Tony Pollard right now? Because if you kind of go back, it's a little bit of a deja vu connection when you're thinking of where CeeDee Lamb was this time last year, and you take a little time trip back, you were talking about bringing other receivers in at that point. You're talking about an OBJ possibly coming into the building. And, it kind of had a little bit of kick in his butt because from that point, the shift started. And then that's why you're seeing CD starting so productive now is because he had that entire year to work out the kinks of being the starting receiver. And so I think what you're seeing now with Tony Pollard is a mixture of things. Kind of seeing that Cowboys aren't really trying to be a run heavy team. So that must be frustrating when your identity was the run game last year. And then all of a sudden it's not. You're trying to figure out what that means for you and your role. And then you're having to start to be the one guy in the room. And I just think what you're seeing from Tony Pollard isn't always what you're going to see from Tony Pollard, right? I think as things progress, you're starting to see a little bit more of him. But what concerns me the most about the run game is you still want that consistent running threat in the red zone because that's what you had with Zeke and it was comfortable and you knew it was going to work. Now, I think Rico can be that guy for this offense because, like you said, Dalton, he's going to run angry. He is going to get you yardage. And Rico's not a very big guy. Does not matter. When he's playing, he's almost very Hulk-like when he's running and he's trying to get into the end zone. So I think they have a solution there if they want kind of a rushing threat in the red zone. I just don't know how to get him the ball more. I think is my biggest thing is how you get him the ball more with the little touches that the run game is getting in general. How do you get him more involved without kind of taking that away from Tony Pollard, who obviously earned the spot to get all of the reps he is. So it's a bit of a weird game right now that they're playing with that.
Yeah, and I think the thing that makes it even more difficult is that Tony Pollard has been unbelievably good in pass protection this year, which is
Yes.
it makes him really hard. It makes it really hard to take him off of the field.
And that's not something that he was good at. So
Yes.
credit to Tony Pollard because that was something that last year, when all the conversation was coming up of if he was ready to be the starting running back, was if he could handle the pass pro because he years prior was not the best at it. So big shout out to him because that's a big improvement in his game. And that was something that I think was really emphasized over the offseason for him. Um, let's go to the defense, or anything but bland defense with the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys defense, oh my goodness. It's so fun to watch this era of this defense because, yes, look, they did what they needed to against Sam Howell, right? Let's talk about what I guess needs improvement or what needed improvement where it is now. Run defense. That's the biggest kryptonite we've talked about for the last 2 years with this defense. How do you think it's going to measure up to Geno coming up on Thursday, Jalen Hurts coming up in the next couple of weeks, and so on and so forth for more mobile quarterbacks or just run defenses, run game overall? It is Monday, guys. I'm so tired. I'm so sorry. I can't talk today. I am exhausted, but how do you think this run defense stands and how it's going to match up with the matchups it has to the next couple of weeks?
I think it's okay. I just have more of an issue. The Cowboys have allowed teams to move the ball a little bit more than I think I'm used to. Obviously, the Commanders have a really talented passing attack. Like, yes, Sam Howell takes a bunch of sacks, but that dude can absolutely spin it, and they have a lot of talent on the outside. So if you're not getting him, they are winning a lot of those matchups on the outside, even against guys like Stephon Gilmore. So I think that just overall having more consistent stops, I think that the Commanders were darn near 50% on third downs this past week. And, when you watch the Carolina Panthers the week before, yeah, the Cowboys, kind of kicked their teeth in, but Adam Thielen was open on every single third down, it seemed like. So I would like to see them just kind of button it up a little bit. And that's really tough when you're missing, I say their best cornerback, but I don't even know if Trayvon Diggs is the best cornerback on the team anymore with the way that Bland's playing. But they need to button that up a little bit and get more consistent stops. They're still one of the best defenses in the NFL. They're either second or third in defensive EPA. They're third in defensive EPA, but when you look at their overall success rate, they fall down to like 13th, which is still good, and they make up for it because they are so good at taking the ball away and getting really critical sacks because they can rush the passer. But for me, the biggest issue with this team, and especially the run defense for the Dallas Cowboys, has been defending against mobile quarterbacks. Now, Geno is athletic, but he's not super mobile, and with his injured shoulder right now, I don't think we're going to see him be moving around a lot. It really, gets down to Jalen Hurts is going to be an issue because of his athleticism. And then you have Josh Allen, who is an issue for anybody to tackle because he is that big schoolyard bully who hit puberty before everybody else. He is. Like, when you look at Josh Allen, look at his face, okay? Look at his face. He looks
What?
like he looks like a 17-year-old, but he is 6'5", 250 pounds, and he reminds me. I always say about this. I always talk about this when I write about him. He looks like that kid on the playground who hit puberty before everyone else, like the 13-year-old who is like already 6'2". Like,
God.
that's what Josh Allen reminds me of on the football field. He's just bigger, stronger, faster than everybody else that is
Oh
on the
my
football field.
gosh.
And he's
Stop
not
it.
faster than all of them,
Only
but
you. Only you.
that's how physically dominant he is, and he is an absolute unit to try to tackle on the run. So the Cowboys are going to have issues with that, especially with how much man coverage they play. But you're right. Like, we look at this, and the defense is awesome. And when you look at their rush EPA, they're ninth in the league. But the rushing success rate is 31st. Only the Carolina Panthers are worse. So when teams need to have a successful run, the Cowboys are allowing it. And I think it just comes down to, I want to see them button things up. Yes, they're great at taking the ball away. Yes, they're great at making big plays. But they need to just be more consistent, get consistent stops, especially on third downs.
I love that. And that's something that Dan Quinn talks about a lot is focusing and emphasizing third downs. And more so, I guess you can peel it back, second down. So they're not in these third and short situations. They want those third and long situations. And I don't think that's what
Especially
the Cowboys have been
especially
doing
against
a
that
lot of.
one football team. That one football team that if it gets to third and short or second and short
Don't do
or
it.
fourth and
Don't do it.
short, you
The light
just can't
behind you is
stop it.
green right now, so it's very ominous that you're talking about that
Yeah.
there.
I'm gonna have to change the color.
There you go. Now it's red. There you go. Right on cue. No, I think the emphasis kind of starts with more second down and making sure first and second down, making sure you're keeping everybody behind the sticks as you should. And that's something that this defense has been good at in the past is you create those third and long situations
Yes.
for teams so that way they're not successful on those third down scenarios. But something and it's so funny to be nitpicky about this, right? But something I want to see more of is more interceptions because again, you have ball hawks on this defense. You only had the one pick six. You only had the one historic pick six from DaRon
Mm-hmm.
Bland against Sam Howell. Whoa, how horrible. As I say that with the most sarcastic tone ever, but I want to see more of that throughout the game, not just in the fourth quarter from DaRon Bland. You have so many ball hawks. Stephon Gilmore, where are you at? That's kind of where I'm looking at too. And look, if you're a quarterback, you pick the lesser of two evils. Then at this point, it's like DaRon Bland or Gilmore. Which one do I go to? You don't know. But also those matchups inside the box with your linebackers. I really want to see more of those takeaways. And yes, I would love to see more from DaRon Bland, obviously, but I just overall want to see more of those takeaways because I think that's kind of a part of their game that the wheels haven't been spinning as much as they were in the past. And obviously, I know there's more tape on a Dan Quinn scheme, so that way that's kind of avoided and people are trying to figure that out. But I also want to see, a little bit more of those strip sacks or just so many different aspects of taking the ball away and being aggressive like they can. Um, that's really my biggest thing is yes, the run defense is going to be tested. We can talk about that when it happens, but I want to see more of those takeaways. I want to see more aggression with taking the ball away, physically getting the ball away from them, because that's also going to be something I think that just bodes well when you have the offense playing like it is, keeps everybody fresh on the defense, keeps everybody from getting winded, and it avoids those really long plays that you're talking about, those explosive plays that you just don't want to see the defense giving up to anybody, especially when you're talking about a Sam Howell in a game like you saw on Thursday. So,
I think.
overall, like what we're seeing though.
I listen. Great take. I love it. I really do.
You're
I
giving
think it's.
Kanye West. You're giving
I
Kanye
think.
West.
I think it's a little bit of a spoiled take. I think it's a little bit of a spoiled take, and I think it's a little bit of a spoiled take because we're used to the Cowboys being at the very top of turning the ball over. In 2021, they had the most. They had 34 of them. 2022, they had the most. They had 33 of them. And this year, they are sitting at a lowly 17 of them, which is like 10th in the NFL right now. So
But
I
it's
think
fair
it's
to
I
say
think
you want more.
it's fair to say
So
that you
fair to
want
say you want
more, but I
more.
think
It's
it's
so fair.
spoiled. I think it's spoiled that
Nah.
you are begging for more
Nope.
turnovers for a team that led the league in them the past 2 years.
It's an expectation. It's
No,
not being
absolutely,
spoiled.
absolutely.
It's you set the
No,
expectations.
that's
So keep it
spoiled
that
fandom.
way.
That's like when Patrick Mahomes has
Look,
won bad
I love
games
it.
and the fans are like, "Oh my God, what's wrong with Patrick Mahomes?" Like you guys just got spoiled. We got
And
spoiled with Dan Quinn's defense being able to turn the ball over at will.
yeah,
And they're not quite turning the ball over at will this year. They're still fantastic overall.
right.
They still have so much speed. And maybe, just maybe, you are correct. And that is about to really turn. And they're about to turn up the pressure and the heat on the turnovers.
All I want to see though is if you do, and this kind of trickles back to if you do see the offense get back to a little bit of a slow start, I just want to know that there is that crutch that you can kind of
Yeah.
lean on to know that your defense can get the ball back for you. Because I
Mhm.
think that's another aspect of the games that you have seen that is a little worrisome is that whoever is getting the ball first, whether it's offense or defense, they're not off to a quick start like you would want them to be overall, especially on the offense. I'm sick of seeing 3-and-out on their first possession of these games. I am sick of it. I that it's something that drives me crazy. And
Okay.
you're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles game. You need to score on that first drive. Period.
That's a great point, and I want Dak Prescott to figure it out. I need Dak to figure it out because I listen. We all know I love Dak, and I will defend Dak to my very last breath.
You know
But
this.
yes, but he is way too amped up early in games. Way too amped up, and this has always been an issue for him. First drive or two, we're looking at accuracy problems that don't really exist in his game. We're looking at some iffy decisions, some high throws, a little bit too much heat, a little bit too far out in front of CD Lamb on the first drive of the game this past week that could have been a touchdown. It's just those little things early in the games where I think whatever he is doing in his pregame, I think that he just needs to find out how to take that chill pill before the second drive of the game. So I agree with you. I think that they need to start better.
And against really good teams that you're about to play, you have no choice. You need to take advantage of every opportunity you have to get points on the board.
It's
Every
especially
opportunity.
because this Cowboys defense is so opportunistic when they have the lead at taking the ball away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. See, I'm not being spoiled. I'm just trying to trickle it down.
It's still
to-
spoiled, but it's fine to be spoiled.
You
It's
know
a
what?
good thing.
I'm the baby of the family. What can I
Mhm.
say? What can I say? I'm used to being spoiled. But let's turn the page to the Seattle matchup, another Thursday game, and then finally go back to Sunday games, and we'll know what day it is. I feel like that meme. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like a little monster coming out of a rock. That's how I feel with what my days are. I'll have to find it and I'll send it to you. But it's
Please do, because
it's like
I'm a meme king and I don't know what you're talking about.
it's like a little like creepy monster thing and it's coming out of the rock, and I always used to see it in college when it was like coming out of finals week, and then it's like this thing like peeking out. It's kind of like an ugly little monster thing, and it's like peeking out into the daylight. It's like that's how I feel right now because I don't know what day it is. I am telling you, like my mind is all over the place. So the sooner we can get out of these like Thursday games, please, I'm all for it. I'm ready for a normal week back with the Cowboys playing on Sunday. But that's just my first world problems griping away. Um, truly, it is. And so Cowboys play the Seahawks on Thursday. Dalton, what are some of the big aspects and keys of this game as you're looking at this matchup? Is this a game that worries you? Because like we just talked about, the Cowboys are coming off of 3 should-win games. Is this a game that kind of shifts the tide a little bit for the Cowboys? Where do you see this matchup taking them?
Well, no, I still think that it's a game that they should win, especially with the way that Seattle's been playing recently, especially with the way that Geno Smith has been playing recently. And I do think that the shoulder is giving him some issues. Shoulder, elbow, I forget exactly what he hurt, but he has not been 100%. And last week, this past week, the physical issue with him really affected him mentally as well. He looked kind of skittish in the pocket, and that offensive line is already not very good. And so the Dallas Cowboys will have a very good opportunity to pressure him at a very high rate. I think when you look at what to worry about, you obviously have to look at that wide receiving core because it is incredibly talented. DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, the rookie, and then Tyler Lockett, who has consistently been one of, if not the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL year in and year out. So I think that's really where you have to look and say, hey, they can beat you in man coverage. And the Dallas Cowboys love to run a lot of man coverage. So it will be interesting. I think that the biggest issue that I have is Jordan Lewis in the slot against Smith and Jigba, because that is an incredibly talented slot receiver who has the juice, and he's going up against a cornerback who is still not back to 100% from that foot injury. So I think if we have to worry about anything, it's that Kenneth Walker banged up. That offensive line's not very good. They can't run block very well anyways, so the run defense doesn't really worry me in this game. It all kind of comes down to pass defense this week.
Oh, okay. And as for the Cowboys offense, any threats that is posed to them from the defensive side of the ball that you want to talk about?
Yeah, they have a decent corner as well. Devin Witherspoon, who it kind of shocked everybody when they drafted him, but I don't know why we were all shocked, because he was one of the best players in the draft. He obviously deserved to be selected in that area. Just nobody was really sending a corner to the Seattle Seahawks in mock drafts. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because they obviously needed somebody opposite of Tariq Woolen. Well, they threw him immediately in the slot. And Devin Witherspoon has incredible foot speed, and he's going to be with CeeDee Lamb quite a bit in this game. I'm super excited for that matchup specifically. Woolen, a guy who 5 interceptions as a rookie, not playing very well, got benched this past week. They have some issues in the secondary that Dallas will be able to exploit, or should be able to exploit. They have very good safety play, so middle of the field, it's going to be interesting to see in the intermediate middle of the field if Dak Prescott's going to really, whip those seam balls in there that we know and love him so much for. But the middle of the field, in the shorter areas, their linebackers can't cover at all. Bobby Wagner is done. Can't play the position the way that he used to, and teams are really exploiting that area of the field with running backs, with tight ends, and I think that the Dallas Cowboys are really going to lean on that this week. So it might not be a huge game for CeeDee Lamb. He might have a couple of catches, might go 4 for 9 again, like he did in this past game, have a couple big catches. He's going to win every once in a while. You just can't stop him on every play. But I do think that the Cowboys have a very clear game plan on how to defeat this defense. And the last thing to worry about is Boye Mafe, who was a really great athlete coming out of college, who needed to completely revamp the way that he played the game because he was just so raw. And he has really learned how to play football and really learned how to rush the passer. And when you pair that with his freakish athleticism, I think Tyron will be fine against him because Tyron is playing out of his mind right now. But still, it does worry me a little bit on that right side. So hopefully they're able to give him a little bit of help there.
And the tight ends entered the chat for that extra help there. I'm thinking you'll see a Peyton Hendershot back this week. Is my best guess. We haven't seen him. He's been able to return for the last couple of weeks. I'm thinking this will be the week, guys. So if you get 4 tight ends on this roster, extra help would be much appreciated there in that aspect of their game. I'm going to give you a question I haven't given you yet so far in this podcast, and I've been wanting to do it for when we're doing these previews going forward. Which player has a big game during this matchup, and why? And it could be for either side, Cowboys or Seahawks. Which player?
Mozzie Smith. I could go with the easy one and go Osa, because Osa is coming off of what I think was his best game of all time. He was a freak, and he is my PF MVP of that past game.
Oh, we love that.
But I think I want to see Mozzie absolutely dominating that very, very underwhelming offensive interior for the Seattle Seahawks. We've seen him making plays, and he's not consistent yet. Jonathan Hankins is still the better player overall, but that splash of athleticism and power is all there for Mozzie. And I think that just as a physical presence, he'll be able to overpower the interior of that Seattle offensive line.
The growth from Mozzie from the start of the season to now is phenomenal. And I think a lot of people, put so much pressure on first round draft picks to come out and just be kind of plug and play players. But he really was a diamond in the rough that needed polishing. And everybody knew that coming out of the draft. And so obviously, I think Jonathan Hankins was expected to be the better player with the experience that he's had, especially the experience in a Dan Quinn defense, because it's not an easy feat to play in Dan Quinn's scheme. You're asked to do a lot of things that you're not typically asked to do in your position. Hence the versatility, and hence why it makes it so difficult for opposing offensive coordinators to scheme against. And so shout out to Mozzie. Really, I've been seeing this for the last few weeks of just how much cleaner he's gotten, even his feet. Just little things that you weren't seeing from him before, his hands, his arms. It's all starting to come together for Mozzie, and that should make everybody just really excited to see what he's able to do going forward. So I'm glad you mentioned Mozzie. I think that's a fantastic pick.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you pay attention to what the guys wear, like coming off the plane or coming into the stadium? Are you big on the guys' fashion?
Oh yeah.
Who has the best fashion on the team?
Man, they're gonna get mad at me if they hear me say all this. I think Osa is definitely a top contender for being fashionable. Dak Prescott, obviously. I mean, Dak's fits are always so good.
I didn't love this past one.
I did. I loved it.
Did you?
I loved it. I did.
I didn't love the top. I didn't love the top.
Look, he's trying something new.
Yeah,
we love
that.
It's
fine. Yeah.
I also think somebody that doesn't get enough love for the amount of good looks he has in terms of how he styles himself is Jake Ferguson. I think Jake Ferguson has great style, and he always likes to have the little cowboy hat. So I'm always talking to him about that as well. And then, oh man. Yeah, I'm gonna go with those three. But I think Osa is definitely the most fashionable guy, and you wouldn't expect it. But I think he would also get upset with me if I didn't say Osa. So I'm gonna say Osa is on for the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey, if you guys want to be swagged out for the holidays, the PFN merchandise store is now open, and it's just in time for the holiday season. You guys can visit pfnmerch.com for exclusive shirts, sweaters, hats, and more. For the football fan in your life, act now to take advantage of all of the sales that we have going on at pfnmerch.com today.
I love that. Christmas season. Oh my goodness.
Had to get it in there. I almost completely forgot about the ad read, but
we're proud of you for doing that. And look, if it helps anybody who's listening, I didn't know he was about to do that either. So if you're watching this video and I look a little surprised, that was all authentic. And he, Dalton, I'm so proud of you for that transition. Actually, that was beautiful.
Yeah,
I wondered where you were going with that and why you're asking.
I'm usually better at them when I can plan out my transitions, and I kind of had to go on the fly for that one. So I had to just bring up the swag for the guys, because that is a big thing. Like the team social media accounts are really diving into that, and I think that's a way to show these guys' personalities.
Absolutely. You kind of touched base on this, but let's end with our PF MVPs for the week before we officially turn the page to another week in this regular season. Dalton, who's your PF MVP for the week?
Yeah, I mean, Osa played the game of his life. He was unbelievable. But I already said him, so, I mean, we'll just throw it around to you for yours.
All right, my PF MVP for the week is going to be none other than Dak Prescott. Congratulations to the soon-to-be girl dad. So there's that. But what Dak is able to do week in and week out is so unbelievably fun to watch, especially you're talking about a year 8 player, right? Who really at this point, you should kind of know what his game is about. He's finding a way to take his game and perfect it and make it even better than it's been this far into his career, which is just a testament to what he's been able to do. It's a testament to good coaching around him and good weapons around him that this team is really built for him and because of him. It's all coming together for him. The way he's able to use his feet and feel comfortable doing that again, that's something that we didn't know if we would see from Dak Prescott post 2020 ever again. And you're seeing the best version of it now. You're seeing a guy that's comfortable, and that Brian Schottenheimer always says, if you look at a quarterback's feet, you can know the kind of game he's played. There hasn't been one game that he has played that you can go back and say, oh, Dak doesn't look great with how he's working his footwork there. That's all a testament to all of the things that he's been doing that has gone so right for him. So Dak Prescott is my PF MVP for the week, and I don't see that changing for the next few weeks either. So Dak Prescott, Rain Dakota Prescott, we stan, we appreciate, and we're happy for him. So Dak is mine for the week. Dalton, anything else you want to add?
Now let's get the people out of here. We are overtime.
Oh, we're 36 seconds over time, and that doesn't count because before we started recording, I was talking to my dog. Dalton, where can the people find you?
At Dalton B. Miller.
And please go tweet Dalton some Cheetah Girls lyrics. We're gonna switch from High School Musical to Cheetah Girls just because it's that kind of vibe this week. Dalton, 1, 2, or 3? Which one was the best movie for you? Did you watch any of them?
No, I actually like the Spice Girls film more.
What? We're talking Disney Channel. What are you talking about?
I don't know.
Spice Girls was not on Disney Channel.
I didn't know we were talking just specifically. I thought we were just doing like girl band stuff.
Well, I went from High School Musical to Cheetah Girls just because I feel like
I didn't know it was a Disney thing. I'm sorry. I didn't know.
We've talked about this.
About Cheetah Girls?
No, about Disney Channel stuff.
I'm sorry. I didn't know Cheetah Girls was a Disney thing. I didn't know that's what the conversation was. I thought we were just talking about girl band movies.
All right, time to end this podcast. I'm at @JessNavarez_. You can tweet me, find me, call me, beat me if you want to reach me. Dalton, always fun doing this with you, my friend. We will be back same time, same place next week as we're going to recap all things Cowboys Seahawks. Until then, enjoy the game, have a great time, and we appreciate the heck out of you. Have a great day.